Carlos Slim, which is an awesome name, one I wish I had something similar to it, is the CEO of the telecom company Telmex, and he's the world's second richest man. Well, he just shocked quite a few people when he told the audience at a business conference that we need a, quote, radical overhaul of the way we work. So what's his solution? A 3-day work week. What? The world's second richest man with one of the most awesome names decided a 3-day work week makes sense? So he said this, quote, with 3 work days a week, we would have more time to relax for quality of life. Having 4 days off would be very important to generate new entertainment activities and other ways of being occupied. So he says the trade-off would be longer hours in the case of the 3 days that you're actually at work. So he thinks 11 hours a day, given that scenario, would make sense. He also says in that situation, it would make sense to push retirement back to like age 70 or age 75 because people would feel like working isn't even necessarily working because it's just 3 days a week. And he's also started working towards a similar theory of this with the jobs that he's created. Quote, at Telmex, where workers are eligible to retire at age 50, he's offered a voluntary plan where workers continue working after that, but only for 4 days a week. So this isn't the only example of this. In a Swedish city, in fact, I think it's the second largest Swedish city, they're testing a 6-hour workday. In the U.S., there's an online education company called Treehouse, which has a 4-day work week, but they pay the people as if they were working 5 days. I'm not sure what the hours are like for the 4 days, but I think they're a little bit more, so they kind of get in the same amount of productivity. And of course, needless to say, as we've covered on the show, there's some evidence that cutting back hours just a little bit, not even anything crazy, but if you cut back hours a little bit, it actually increases productivity because people are refreshed and they're happy and then they're willing to go to work and they look forward to it. You know, they say that if you were to, extend the work week and make it longer, what happens is for the first week or two, the productivity rises. But then after that, people get so worn out and so tired that the productivity actually drops. So if you lower it a little bit, it actually consistently stays at a fairly high level. So this is a really, really interesting conversation to have here. I'm very happy that the second richest guy in the world is just floating this like it's a common sense thing. Like he thinks it's not even necessarily radical. Actually, wait, he does. Yeah, he uses the word radical overhaul. So he knows it's radical. But I like the idea that he's trying to mainstream it. He's admitting it's radical, but he's saying, look, this is how I believe, and I think that we would do better to implement this. And I have to say, I do think there's a slight element of, like, he's so incredibly rich that he's a little out of touch, and he thinks, like, well, why don't people just work 3 days? I don't understand. I mean, I could work, like, 1 day, and I'll still be one of the fucking second richest man in the world. So he might be a little bit out of touch, which leads him to be, like, overly generous, but I don't want to be too harsh, because where he's coming from, I think, is a good place. It's a common sense place, and it's a humanitarian perspective. I would actually say, I guess I'm a little more conservative than this guy would be on this issue, but I would be in favor of a 4-day work week. Okay, either do a 4-day work week, or you can keep it 5 days a week, but just limit it to what the hours were back when we all were in school, whether it's, 9 in the morning till 3, so you cut it off a little shorter. Or on top of that, another thing to consider is at least 6 weeks paid vacation. I mentioned this on air before. William Howard Taft, a Republican, a conservative Republican president in 1910 in the New York Times, he said that every working person should get 3 months off paid by law. That was a conservative Republican position back then. Today, a liberal can't say that. If a Democrat says that, if Bernie Sanders says that, oh my God, he's a communist, everybody run for the hills, this guy's insane. But is it really insane? Look, it's a fact according to polling, and we know this, that most people don't like their job, okay? Not everybody's lucky enough to essentially live their dream. So working with that information, it just becomes the right thing to do to have a better leisure time, work time balance in life, and to make the norm more kind, Let people work 4 days and then give them 3 days off, man. It's the right thing to do. They could be with their family, or they could, exhaust whatever passions they might have, or they could just hit the recharge button and vegetate on the couch, whatever. That's the more humane thing to do. And we live in a world where the internet is taking over, technology is taking over. The idea that it's impossible to do that is totally made up. And we're operating off of momentum. We're stuck in this previous primitive age where that's just what people did. I don't know, you wake up, you work, and then you drop dead at age 46 from black lung from working in a factory during the Industrial Revolution, and your life was as a spoke in a machine. Well, fuck that. That was stupid. We're past that in history now, and it's time to be more rational about how we divvy up our time.